This happened to me while I was working as a cab driver in the city. It was about 2 or 3 in the morning, and it had been raining heavily for the past few hours. My phone wasn't connected to the charger in my car, so I didn't have any music playing. And the silence was just being broken by the sound of the rain and the hum of the engine. I was driving down this dark, empty street when suddenly, swerve. A girl in her early 20s stuck out her thumb to hail me. I pulled over and she quickly got into my car. She was soaking wet and told me her name was Sarah. She smelled like alcohol and perfume, which I usually don't pick up on, but in that empty car with no music playing, I could smell everything. She told me her destination, which was about 30 minutes away, and I started driving. She stayed silent for most of the ride, and I tried to make conversation several times, but she only gave one-word answers. But then we were about 10 minutes into the drive, and she asked me to pull over at this little park. It was probably around 2:30 a.m. at this point. She told me to turn off the engine and stay in the car with the doors locked. Confused, I asked her why, but she didn't answer. She opened the door and without another word, she got out of the car and disappeared into the darkness. And when I say disappeared, I mean literally disappeared. The last place I saw her was standing next to my open car door. There was no sound from her. She didn't even say goodbye or thank you. So, obviously, I got freaked out and I sat there for maybe a minute or two wondering what the hell just happened. Then I noticed that she left something in the back seat. I carefully opened the door and got out to check. It was a small purse and I picked it up and opened it. Inside I found an ID and some cash, about $40 in small bills. On the ID the name was Sarah Miller, which matched the name she gave me. Her picture looked to be from high school though, and it was dated within a month of me seeing her. And on top of that, her date of birth said that she would be 17 today, meaning that the Sarah that got into my car was a minor. That sent chills down my spine. Who was this girl? Where did she go? And why did she leave her things behind? All these questions ran through my head as I drove around the block to find her, but she was nowhere to be seen. I decided to call the police, but I knew they wouldn't do anything. I imagined telling an officer, "Hey man, I think I just picked up a runaway teenager and she's run away from me." What's more, I didn't know exactly where she went. All I knew was that she disappeared into the darkness of this park, and it was a big, dark park with lots of trees and bushes and places to hide. I ended up not calling the cops and instead took the purse to the nearest police station. I wanted to do the right thing and also get it off my conscience. But I kept thinking about Sarah and how she just vanished without a trace. I couldn't help but imagine all sorts of scenarios of where she could have gone and what could have happened to her. It's now been about 5 years since the incident with Sarah. I'm writing this because I still can't sleep properly at night, and I blame myself every day. I hope this helps people understand that there are things in this world we may never understand. I work as a taxi driver. Sometimes I pick up passengers who have clearly had too much to drink, and I try to keep them safe and get them home without any problems. That's my job. But sometimes things happen that test my limits, like the passenger I picked up the other night. I had just dropped someone off at their home, and as I turned the engine back on, I heard the familiar tune of sirens in the distance. As I drove, I could see flashing lights reflecting in the windows of the houses I passed. My passenger had been fine until I made a wrong turn onto a narrow, dimly lit street. They asked me if I was sure I was going the right way. I apologized, assuring them I was just trying to avoid traffic. When I finally realized my mistake, I turned around. But before I could explain the delay, the passenger suddenly lunged at me, slashing wildly with a knife. In a panic, I slammed on the brakes, turned the wheel, and crashed into the side of a building. I scrambled out of the car and ran away, not daring to look back. Now terrified, hiding in an alley, I tried to catch my breath. Suddenly, I heard a voice asking if I was okay. Startled, I turned around and saw a policeman approaching me. He must have mistaken my terror for fear of being involved in the accident. When he learned I wasn't hurt, he asked if I needed medical attention. I shook my head, still shaken by the assault. As he walked away, another voice called out, "Hey you!" I turned around slowly to see a young woman jogging towards me. She was soaked in sweat and had wild eyes. "Are you the driver?" The driver from the cab? She exclaimed, breathless. Startled by her sudden appearance and frantic tone, I couldn't speak. She continued, I need you to tell me what happened to him. Please tell me he's all right. Her face crumpled into tears and she pleaded again. Is he all right? I stammered, unsure how to respond. I hadn't expected anyone to come looking for me. Then I remembered the knife. Had she been following me? Was she involved? My mind raced with questions. Before I could ask any questions of my own, she broke down crying and said, It's my fault he's gone. It's all my fault. I felt a surge of sympathy and concern. Despite my own fear, I asked, What do you mean? What happened? She looked up at me with tearful eyes and whispered, He's gone. He took his own life. In that moment, everything changed. My initial shock morphed into profound sadness. It dawned on me that the person who attacked me wasn't just a random assailant, but someone who had reached a desperate point in their life. The woman continued to sob, and I found myself drawn into her pain. As I listened to her story, she explained that she had asked the driver to take her to a specific address, a place where she could end her life. She believed that there was no hope for her, and that ending her life was the only option she had left. I felt a mix of emotions, sadness, pity, and a growing sense of unease. It was clear that this woman was in deep pain, but I couldn't shake off the feeling that there was more to the story than she was revealing. After listening to her tale, I felt a mix of sadness, pity, and growing unease. As I reflected on the events, I couldn't help but wonder if I could have done something differently to prevent the tragedy. I thought about the attack, the desperation in the woman's voice, and the haunting revelation of the man's state. It was a heavy burden to carry. But as the minutes passed, I noticed a change in the woman. Her sobs subsided and she began to calm down. I watched as she slowly wiped away her tears and composed herself. Then, to my surprise, she stood up and brushed off her clothes as if nothing had happened. She took a deep breath, looked me in the eyes and said, Thank you. You don't understand what you've done for me. I was taken aback by her sudden transformation. Just moments ago she had been sobbing uncontrollably, and now she seemed almost detached. With a newfound resolve in her voice, she continued, You might not realize it, but you saved my life. I needed someone to listen to me, to understand my pain. You did that for me. I owe you my life. She paused, allowing her words to sink in. Then she added, I won't burden you with my story, but I hope one day you can forgive me. I'm sorry for what happened. Goodbye. And with that, she turned and walked away, leaving me in a state of disbelief. To this day, I can't help but wonder about the woman and the driver. What led her to such a dark place, and what drove the driver to take his own life? I often think about the responsibility we all have to listen to those who are struggling and offer help and understanding. It's a reminder that behind every story there is a human being with hopes, dreams, and struggles.